Top stories tonight in Y News. The Senate Committee on National Defense and Security sets to begin its discussions on the proposed measures seeking to limit the scope of the 3-year fixed term of key officials of the country's armed forces.
Political expert advises President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to man up and provide solutions to the issues of the ongoing food price surge, supply shortage, and the armed forces of the Philippines.
The Bureau of Corrections files criminal and administrative cases against suspended Bucor Director General Gerald Bantag and Jail Superintendent Ricardo Zulueta in the Department of Justice.
And the shadow cam of the National Aeronautics Space Administration captures a clear image of the Shackleton crater near the South Pole of the Moon.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, January 13, 2023. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media channels. I am Harleen Delgado.
First in the news, the Senate is set to begin its discussions on the proposed measure seeking to limit the scope of the 3-year fixed term of key officials of the country's armed forces. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
The Senate Committee on National Defense and Security will begin its inquiry on the proposed bill seeking to amend a law that sets the fixed term of key officials of the Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP. Under the Republic Act 11709, the tour of duty of 8 AFP officials is fixed to 3 years upon their appointment. They are the Chief of Staff, Vice Chief of Staff, Deputy Chief of Staff, the Commanding Generals of the Philippine Army and the Philippine Air Force, the Flag Officer in Command of the Philippine Navy, Unified Command Commanders, and Inspector General. But some lawmakers propose to limit its coverage to only 4 officials, the Chief of Staff and the Commanding Generals of the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. But for Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri, the 3-year fixed term should only apply to the AFP Chief of Staff. This as he noted the problems that the fixed term will cause among lower ranks.
Nagkaroon po ng amendments doon sa BICAM,
yes.
Na damihan na yung posisyon. Pag yan ay tinupad po natin, napakaraming colonels and even the lower ranking generals, they cannot anymore resume the position. So, titigil ang promotion.
Yes.
Definitely, magkakaroon ng problema.
Yes.
This month, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. reappointed General Andres Centino as Chief of Staff of the AFP. Centino served as the AFP chief from November 2021 under the Duterte administration until August of last year, when he was replaced by Lieutenant General Bartolome Bacaro as the first AFP chief of staff of the Marcos administration. The Senate leader hopes the proposed amendment to the law will instill stability within the ranks of the country's armed forces, following reports of alleged destabilization plots in the military. Zubiri says they plan to pass the measure in the first quarter of the year.
Makakatulong po yan, yung amendment na yan ay makakatulong sa pagbibigay po ng stability muli sa ating mga military establishments. Mawawala na po yung tampo ng mga junior officers.
Earlier, the Senate's panel chairperson, Jinggoy Estrada, said they are eyeing to adopt the House version of the bill that was certified as urgent by the President. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Suspended Bureau of Corrections Director General Gerald Bantag and Jail Superintendent Ricardo Zulueta are facing new cases before the Department of Justice. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Bureau of Corrections or Bucor has filed criminal and administrative cases before the Department of Justice or DOJ this morning. The respondents are suspended Bucor Chief Gerald Bantag and Jail Officer Superintendent Ricardo Zulueta.
We filed cases against USEC Bantag for violation of RA 9745, which is the Anti-Torture Act of 2019 and serious physical injuries. As against Superintendent Ricardo Zulueta, it's 2 counts of violation of Presidential Decree 1829.
These cases were stemmed from the complaint by two believed gang leaders or inmates Jonathan Escopete and Ronald Usman, who were allegedly stabbed or maltreated by Bantag last year. Zulueta meanwhile allegedly bribed the gang leaders to keep silent over the incident.
The stabbing incident involving the two PDLs, Jonathan Escopete and Ronald Usman. This happened last year, February 1, 2022, inside the Director's Office of then Director General Yusek Bantag.
Last month, the two inmates had given details how they were stabbed by Bantag.
Pagdating po sa akin, dito, gumaganyan lang ako kasi siyempre, natakot na po ko eh. Bigla na po hinawakan ni kami ko. Tapos kinanan yung Tinusok.
Dito sa dibdib, binaon niya punti. Hindi ko na nakayanan. Kung hinayaan ko yung pagsaksak niya dito, hindi ko alam. Ngayon, patay na siguro ako. Ang ginawa ko lang, hinawakan ko yung patalim, tinapi ko. Sa galit niya, dito niya sinaksak sa hita ko. Nung dito na sa hita, hinayaan ko na lang.
Attorney Al Pereira's Bucor's legal counsel said their witnesses are also gang leaders.
5 witnesses, yung mga commanders ng maximum prison compound, who were also there when the torture was committed by Yusek Bantag.
Alam ko na a month ago na may nangyaring ganyan, but it took them a while to probably firm up the affidavits needed to file a case.
Meanwhile, Bantag's lawyer, attorney Rocky Balisong, said they cannot give comment because they have no copy of the complaint and they will answer upon receipt of the subpoena and complaint. Zulueta's legal counsel, attorney Lauro Gakayan, on the other hand, disclosed that they have no details over the complaint, hence they cannot comment yet. Dantiamento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Amid the issues faced by the country and the government, experts advise President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to man up. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
The president should be able to provide solutions to the problems faced by the country. This includes the ongoing food price surge and supply shortage and the issues surrounding the Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP.
You are a Marcos, you are the leader, the elected president, and you have to lead the country. Man up.
According to political strategist Malu Tikia, there seemed to be miscommunication between government officials. The newly appointed Secretary of the Department of National Defense or DND, Carlito Galvez Jr., had to assure there is no tension in the AFP after the resignation of former DND officer in charge Jose Faustino Jr. Tikia said these types of issues should be resolved, especially when the country is also facing challenges brought by external situations.
Number one sa gobyerno is stability and predictability.
Apo.
And certainty. Wala yun eh. Kaya nakakalungkot dahil ang dami nating binabanggang mga issues na hindi naman talaga internally generated. Kunyari yung global yung kaguluhan sa Ukraine, yung inflation, yung food supply.
She also added that these issues seem to be far from getting resolved. According to Tikia, the president was voted by 31 million Filipinos and he should work on finding solutions, especially in the agriculture industry.
The buck stops with the president. He is Secretary of Agriculture. Food supply and prepositioning of food supply to those areas is essentially the job of the Secretary of Agriculture. He is president.
Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Education needs 446 million pesos for the repair and reconstruction of schools affected by the shear line in some parts of Visayas and Mindanao regions. Janice and Henta will tell us why.
Around 58 public schools were reported to have infrastructure damages due to the continued flooding in some areas in Visayas and Mindanao caused by the effects of shear line. According to Department of Education or DepEd spokesperson attorney Michael Powa, As of January 11, the estimated cost of damages of the affected schools is 446 million pesos. DepEd assured that there are still 2 billion pesos on standby from the department's Quick Response Fund that can be used to repair damaged schools.
58 schools are affected infrastructure-wise. So may mga infrastructure damages sila.
POA explained the main focus of DepEd field offices now is to do cleanups in affected schools.
Ang main focus na ginagawa ng ating field offices are clean-up kasi marami po talaga nabaha. So nilinis talaga po yan para po makabalik yung mga learners as soon as possible safely sa kanilang paaralan.
DepEd is also waiting for additional information from the regional offices to know how many temporary learning spaces are needed to be built.
Ang protocol po natin, pag hindi safe makabalik sa klase yung ating mga learners in person, nagkakaroon tayo ng alternative delivery modes. We will get the necessary information from the schools kung kailangan magkaroon ng remediation classes or other forms of intervention para po hindi naman lalong lumala yung learning losses natin.
DepEd continuously monitoring the areas that are also affected by the low pressure area or LPA. Currently, 33 schools are being used as evacuation centers in Visayas and Mindanao. Janice Enhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for our news abroad, as China becomes increasingly assertive with its military buildup in the South Pacific region, Australia and Papua New Guinea are finalizing a new security pact that would see defense from each nation working alongside each other more often. Marvi Delfin details why live. Yes, Marvi? Kath, in the annual Leaders Dialogue in Port Moresby on Thursday, January 12, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his counterpart in Papua New Guinea, James Marape, negotiate a bilateral security treaty. Details of the treaty have not been released, but the treaty has been proposed to cover troop training and joint operations, as well as to address non-defense related issues such as climate change and cybersecurity. Additionally, there were talks on the streamlining of visa arrangements for the workers that travel between the two countries. In a news conference statement accompanied with a tweet, Albanese said that the economic and security interests of Australia and Papua New Guinea are inseparable. Marape echoed the same sentiment of strengthening relations with its Pacific neighbors, while also highlighting the strategic importance of PNG. In order to counter Beijing's growing influence, Australia and PNG are also seeking to enhance trade of most commodities by upgrading ports, roads, and digital infrastructure. The treaty is expected to be finalized by April and signed by June this year. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Marvi Delfin, reporting live from Australia. The Shadow Cam, a hypersensitive camera by the National Aeronautics Space Administration, or NASA, released a clear image of the Shackleton crater. The Shackleton crater, which is near the south pole of the moon, is an area that lies in total darkness, but due to the camera having a high sensitivity to light, the Shadow Cam was able to capture a high resolution and a more detailed image. The Korean Pathfinder lunar orbiter, which carried the Shadow Cam, was launched on a Falcon 9 rocket in August 2022 and slid into orbit around the moon last month. This was South Korea's first lunar probe, and one of its missions was to survey the polar regions of the moon to look for resources such as water ice. Although the image does not show evidence of water ice or other elements, this will be a way to improve our understanding of the polar environment and where lunar resources exist. We'll share more global stories with you later, but for now, back to you, Harleen. Thank you, Kat. Department of Interior and Local Government, or DILG Secretary Benhur Abalos says they will not announce the names of police officials with drug links. According to Abalos, they will let them leave the organization silently. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
Department of Interior and Local Government or DILG Secretary Benhar Avalos ensured that they will keep the names of the PNP officials who will be discovered to have links in illegal drugs with confidentiality. Avalos said there is no need to publicize the names of police officials whose courtesy resignation will be accepted due to their alleged involvement in illegal drugs.
Hindi na. There's no need. There's no need.
May we know why, sir?
Well, ganito yan eh. This is a radical move. No, kamukha ng sinasabi ko, extraordinary times calls for radical and bold action. This is out of the box. In the same token, kung let's say may matangkap kang resignation, just let them retire silently.
But Avalos said monitoring and investigation against them, which may subsequently result to the filing of charges, will continue.
Ngayon, if you have enough evidence that will build up criminal cases, pursue them in court as mandated by law. If not, kung wala ka namang ganun katibay or ano lang, pero nakita talagang may involvement, let them retire peacefully.
Avalos adds the National Police Commission or NAPOLCOM will also review the names of police officers whose resignation will be accepted.
Kung may nakuha, let's say, na names na tatanggapin ng resignation, ito ngayon ay dadaan pa sa NAPOLCOM. Only those names at pwede pang bawasan ng NAPOLCOM. Kasi ako, I'd rather have one man who's guilty get off the hook than one innocent person be dismissed.
Secretary Avalos said about 95% or 904 of the 953 third-level officers submitted their resignation. Of the 904, 774 were police colonels and 130 were police generals. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, will try to stretch the budget released by the Department of Budget and Management for free rides until August this year. JP Nunez will tell us why.
To serve the commuting public for several months of free ride in the EDSA carousel, Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB will utilize the fund until August this year. Department of Budget and Management or DBM recently released a 1.2 billion pesos for the service contracting program for fiscal year 2023. This will be used for the resumption of EDSA busway free ride starting February.
Pagbaba po noong budget sa amin po, pupulungin namin ulit yung mga dalawang consortium and we will start again with the program na libreng sakay. Hopefully po, libre na naman po ang sakay and we will stretch the fund para maiyabot po yan hanggang July or August.
LTFRB Chairman Chofilo Guadis III said they will also use the savings of their department to further extend the budget for free ride program. The official said they need at least 2 billion pesos to extend the free ride in EDSA carousel until the end of the year.
Well, I would say about that much up until the end of the year. I would say about 2 billion. If we have 1.2, konti na lang siguro yung makapulit.
Department of Transportation or DOTR previously said that the government is subsidizing 10 to 12 million pesos a day for the operation of the EDSA carousel. Meanwhile, a commuter advocate group, the Passenger Forum, thinks that the budget allotted this year for the service contracting program is much lower than the budget released by the Marcos administration last year for the same program.
Kapag kinumpara natin yung 1.2 billion naman doon sa huling budget na i-release ng Marcos administration para matuloy itong libreng sakay, 1.4 billion yun, around August. No? Imagine mo, kung mula August na December, 1.4 billion ang kailangan, bakit 1.2 lang itong para sa 2023?
Primo Morillo, convener of the Passenger Forum, believes that stretching the budget for the free ride program may result to inconvenience to commuters.
Hindi lang ang pambayad ang problema ng mga tao, no, ng mga motor. Kasama sa problema ay waiting time, gaano katagal sila makakasakay. Pagka maliit ang budget para sa libreng sakay, pinilit nila yan, spread out sila, mas konti yung boost.
JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The sale of onions at Kadiwa stores will no longer be available starting on Friday, January 13. Meanwhile, onion buyers say they were not informed about the suspension. Bernadette Tinoy will tell us why.
Call center agent Flor Culina, who wanted to buy onion for their company's team building, got shocked when she heard that onions at Kadiwa store will no longer be available today, January 13.
Actually, yung pinunta ko dito yung sibuyas, kaya lang sad, wala. Hindi ko nabalitaan. Basta ang nabalitaan ko lang is nung isang araw tsaka kahapon nga, mura daw. No choice, takbo ng balintawak.
According to the Department of Agriculture or DA, selling cheaper onions will temporarily stop at Kadiwa stores starting January 13, 2023. DA Deputy Spokesperson Rex Esto Perez said that the agency will determine the return of onions on Kadiwa stores.
Ay hindi po namin alam yun pag pumasok ulit, no? Kasi right now inventory yata na nagsusupply sa kanila wala na. At that is 170 kasi yun po ay subsidized.
Esto Perez added that the agency will gladly respond to Ombudsman following the investigation over the procurement of onions.
Number one, alleged shortage of onion. Number two is why is it that the purchase of the 537 per kilo of FTI from the certain Bunena. And number three is that why import na may harvest na?
Meanwhile, the price of onions in markets decreases from 400 to 320 this week and the supply were currently lower. Bernadette Tinoy, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Health assigns lineage to only 4 out of 8 COVID-19 positive Filipinos from China. This after the agency receives the results of genome testing for the said returning Filipinos. Gladys Tawabi details why.
The quality of the specimens of 4 of the 8 Filipinos who were tested positive for COVID-19 after traveling from China were degraded. Hence, the genome sequencing specifically for the said specimens failed. The Department of Health or DOH explains this as the agency receives the results for the genome sequencing for the returning Filipinos.
Gawa na yung sequencing pero siguro yung inote natin even though 8 yun na nag-positive on PCR, 4 lamang yung tinatawag natin na-assign tayo na lineage. So bakit hindi lahat may assigned na lineages? No? Minsan yung pagka-transport na degrade, no, yung quality ng specimen, kaya hindi natin siya ma-sequence.
Meanwhile, the DOH confirms the other 4 Filipinos were already assigned lineage. DOH Epidemiology Bureau Director Dr. Alethea de Guzman says they were infected with a different COVID-19 variant from the feared newly identified lineages.
So ito yung mga hindi bagong variants. Dati na natin itong mga na-detect, no? So kung unusual or unique, no? If we have already previously detected these variants that we have found, no, from these 8 positive.
The DOH, on their part, vows to continue with their surveillance monitoring to immediately detect the new variants that may enter the country. Gladys Tawabi, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. appointed on Friday, January 13, former Tawi-Tawi Governor Al Tila as the new presidential advisor on Muslim affairs amid the chief executive's firm commitment to strive for peace and development in Mindanao. PBBM has administered the oath of office to Tila at the Malacañang Palace in Manila. Also, the oath-taking of Carlito Galvez Jr. as the Department of National Defense or DND chief was conducted in Malacañang. Galvez Jr. concurrently serves as presidential advisor on peace, reconciliation, and unity before his appointment. Last Monday, January 9, the Presidential Communications Office announced that Galvez has replaced DND Officer in Charge Jose Faustino Jr., who resigned after he was left unaware that General Andres Centino already took his oath of office as returning chief of the AFP.
Meanwhile, Vice President and Department of Education Secretary Sara Duterte has tapped her Chief of Staff in DepEd to take charge of programs related to school infrastructure and facilities. In the Department Order Number 1 Series of 2023 signed by VP Duterte on January 9, the Secretary amended the appointment of DepEd Undersecretaries and Assistant Secretaries who manage different organizational strands. The said directive also established a new strand called School Infrastructure and Facilities, or SIF, which will be led by Yusek Densing. The agency's School Infrastructure Program Management Office and Education Facilities Division, which was previously under the administration strand, will now be under SIF. Meanwhile, VP Duterte also designated this SIF strand as DepEd's representative to several interagency bodies, including the Anti-Terrorism Council, National Action Plan on Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism, Emergency Assistance for Reconstruction and Recovery of Marawi, and National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC. The new strand is in line with Duterte's commitment to address backlogs in school buildings and facilities.
The White House confirmed that classified files were found in the home of U.S. President Joe Biden, which now have been turned over to the Department of Justice. Jane Robles will tell us why live. Yes, Jane?
Kath, the documents marked classified which were found in the U.S. President Joe Biden's home in the state of Delaware dates back to his time as president. Vice President Richard Sauber, the White House's special counsel address on Thursday, January 12, said that the documents were found in the president's garage, to which they notified the Department of Justice straight away. He added in his statement that he and President Biden's department are confident that investigations it will show that the documents were misplaced. Coincidingly, 10 documents were also identified at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement. During the press conference at the White House, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre addressed the topic.
Again, he was surprised that the documents were there, and that is also in line with what we shared this morning. And again, he takes this very seriously when it comes to classified information, when it comes to classified documents. And again, it still stays the same. He was surprised that the records were found. He does not know what's in them. That has not changed.
Meanwhile, many critics are comparing the situation to former President Donald Trump, who also kept documents in his residence. However, the difference is that Mr. Trump could be charged for obstruction of justice as U.S. authorities needed a subpoena to retrieve thousands of government records he kept, whereas Biden's team immediately surrendered the files after they were discovered. Kath?
Thank you, Jane Robles, for that report live from Vietnam. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Maraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
Our Kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity.
Good day. I'm Brother Eli Soriano of the members of the Church of God International. I want to invite you to join us in a minute of prayer every day to pray for humanity and the whole world as we go through these perilous times. While safety measures like washing of hands, and strengthening of our immune systems may help us through this horrible predicament. There is still no precaution or cure more powerful than God's mighty intervention. And we need His intervention now more than ever. It doesn't matter what religion you are in or what denomination you belong. This is an invitation for all the people around the world who cares for the future of their family, friends, loved ones, and humanity as a whole. Everybody is welcome to pray with us. For more details, you can check out the description box below. Thank you very much, and I hope to hear from you soon. May God bless you.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 23. It says, "In all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury." And those are the reasons behind the news, January 13, 2023. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Hardy Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people, we give glory to God.